So, where are all of the good men? That's a common question that I keep hearing over and over and over again. So, just to break it to you, there are plenty of good men out there. Where are they at? Well, I'm going to break this down to you in 5 simple ways to understand where they are. And hopefully, this is kind of an encouragement to you, women out there who are wondering and asking yourself the same question. So, stay tuned. So, who are these good men? Well, first of all, a good man is somebody who is humble, somebody who is vulnerable, and one who ultimately allows God to dictate who he is, his purpose on this earth and in life. Not, what social media or society says and what's popular in the culture out there. No. How many followers, how many likes he has? No. You'll find these qualities in good men is somebody who is constantly seeking God for direction in life. We are all made in God's image. In Genesis, it talks about that. We're made in God's image. He knew us before we were even born. We're all uniquely made. Why does it make any sense that we would submit ourselves to whatever society says or whatever the popular trend is? Why would you want to try to be like everybody else? Why not be yourself? There's something special about you individually, understanding who you are. What does a good man look like? So again, that man is going to be somebody who is, of course, allowing God to dictate his life, allowing God, seeking him constantly, day by day, before they make, big decisions or life decisions, seeking God first in that. And ultimately, he'll lead you in the right direction. Now, one thing that most men are taught growing up is that don't show your emotions, don't be vulnerable, you're a man, you're tough. If you do show your emotions and you do show that you're vulnerable, then that means you're weak. That's completely false, and that's a false narrative that we ultimately all needed to get away from, because that honestly is creating frustration within men. Right? And whenever something is frustrated, eventually that's going to then boil up and boil up and boil up until it then can't hold anymore, and then it's going to explode. Now that's going to look like different things. That could be in the form of addictions, pornography, drugs, being abusive. It could be a multitude of things, but I strongly believe that has a part in doing with that type of behavior. If you're able to be vulnerable and transparent with those around you, in this case, relationship, significant other, spouse, then they're able to actually see how you feel. They're able to actually relate because you're being transparent. Too many people, and I say this again, too many people are getting married and don't even know their spouse. It's sad. So we've already gone through the who, we covered the what, and then the when. When will I meet a good man, one of these good men? So basically, a lot of the things I just mentioned also applies to women, right? Seeking God first. If he's first in your life, then you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable to his direction. You're allowing yourself to be, a willing vessel for his service. And in doing that, you'll then start to notice God's directing you and breaking off blinders that you may have or expectations that you may have for somebody, for what a good man looks like. A good man's not going to be perfect, right? I know a lot of women and some men have a whole checklist of things that they look for in a significant other. And to be honest with you, a lot of the times, all of those things on your list aren't going to be met. And that's also why I think sometimes it's hard, because the expectation is just set so high that nobody's going to match that. right? And unless they're being completely fake and not honest and not transparent, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I have my own flaws. I am married, and my wife also saw that I had my own flaws. She has her own flaws. She allowed God to actually work through her because she was seeking God first. I was seeking God first. And it was when I allowed God to direct me that he led me to my wife. Now, she friend zoned me because initially she did have some concerns. I didn't meet all the things in her box, but she still allowed God to really be the one who, told her whether to or not to continue dating me. She friend zoned me, right? And talking to the men here, the men that are watching, I got friend zoned, right? I didn't take that as, okay, that's it, right? I was confident in who I was. I was confident in that God was leading me to her. And so through that confidence in him, not in me, because if it was up to me, I would have just walked away, but I felt confident in that. I felt like God had her for me. So I was persistent. And she saw that. She's always persistent. And a lot of characteristics that I showed within those moments was very, very telling to her and allowed her to open up more and more. Pray to God, okay, Lord, what do you think about this? What should I do? Over time, he kept, having her take some of those things off her checklist because ultimately it wasn't, like a red flag. It wasn't like a don't do. So again, none of that would have been possible if me or her weren't seeking God first. If I wasn't seeking God, I would have just walked away when I was friend zoned. And if she wasn't, she would have been like, hey, I'm a friend zone him. He ain't meeting, there's probably like 3 or 4 things on this list he doesn't meet. As a man, especially if you're seeking God and direction, and also you're desiring to be married and then have a family down the road, you don't have to have everything perfect. Allow that to set in. You don't have to have everything perfect financially. You don't have to look the part of a Prince Charming riding in on a horse. You don't have to have the nicest car. You don't have to have a house already. You don't have to have, and I can go on and on. That's not important. And to be honest with you, when I got married to my wife, ever since then, God's given me favor in many different ways. He's given us favor. In a lot of ways, I've grown in a lot of ways as a man through my relationship. Now, I'm not saying be a bum. Prepare yourself best you can. And God will then sometimes through marriage do wonders that he wasn't going to do in your life until you got married. A lot of times God's going to partner you up with somebody that's different from you. I'm a very left brain. My wife is right brain. She's very structured, very organized, very much of a planner. I'm the opposite. I'm a last minute guy. God's going to match you up in different ways like that. And I've grown in a lot of ways in my weaknesses, and same thing with her. If something doesn't go to plan, she's allowed herself to flow with it and learn how to grow, learn how to work with that. A good man isn't perfect, and a good man won't check off all the boxes on your list. But a good man is one who is humble, vulnerable, and transparent. One willing to listen and seek God for direction in his life so that he can properly lead his current or future wife and family. So again, there are good men out there, plenty of them. I know plenty of good men out there. And there's lots of different scenarios as to why, we don't continue pursuing you, because a lot of times the good men are, Christian men that are in church and who have pursued women in the church, and their expectation is through the roof, and they're not allowing God to actually, take those blinders off. And the men are getting hurt and like, hey, getting rejected is it hurts. It really does. So it's tough. You got to really look at it that way too and have, compassion for that. But at the same time, men, whenever you do get rejected, don't be scared to keep tossing your net out there. Everybody keep seeking God first. Everything else will line up if you do that. And that's a little wrap up of of what a good man is, where they are. A lot of times people wonder, so that's your answer.